My name is Judy Wiley. I'm the director of the Native American Parent Technical Assistance Center. Our website is www.naptac.org. We have a variety of resources and a variety of handouts that you can go to our website and access. As I said, we're doing this in partnership with the RAISE group, and we are very honored to have Josie Badger with us, who is the director of the RAISE Center. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to my distinguished colleague and let her talk a little bit about the RAISE Center. Josie?
Thank you so much, Judy. Hi, everyone. So I'm Josie Badger, and I am the co-director of RAISE, and I think that Judy did a great job at describing what we do. We provide technical assistance primarily on transition-related issues for young adults with disabilities to different parent centers across the U.S., along with providing direct support for families and youth. And this is a near and dear issue to my heart. I've been involved with disability transition since before I was transitioning, and so it's definitely an honor to be working with NAPTAC, and I was excited to see that Sacheen was presenting because we actually met doing some of that young adult transition work. And I'm not going to say how many years ago, because that will give away that we are no longer really youth. But I'm so excited about this presentation. Now, I think that this topic is vital not only for working with different populations, but I think that resiliency is vital regardless of your diverse background or intersectionality. So I am extremely excited to not only be working with this wonderful group, but also hear the information shared. So I hope you all enjoy. So thank you, Judy, and Sacheen, it's you.
Thank you, Judy and Josie. Yat e shake do shirine e Sacheen Smith yenshe arone e nishlinigi e sanjakin nishli ashihin bashashin hashklishni e dashache ado howan sane e dashanale. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sacheen Smith. I'm the Disability Youth Advocate here at EPIC. A little about myself. I'm blind. I lost my eyesight my freshman year of college, where I learned to live life as an independent blind person. I'm excited to be conducting this webinar and share with you some barriers in my life where I learned resiliency is an important component in overcoming challenges as a disabled person. Like we've all heard it sometime in our lifetime, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Through the years, I've had this quote embedded in my mind from some of my former teachers and counselors. It seems when things get difficult, people tend to be inspired by motivational quotes. Motivational quotes can be inspirational with a sort of implicit coaching when you're reading it. It's building personal efficacy, reassuring you your ability to reach your goal. The author of Farnsworth Classical English Rhetoric says people have an appetite for well-expressed wisdom, motivational or otherwise. There are many ways to say the same thing. One way might be more effective and meaningful to someone else. Also, a simple metaphor with a sentence or two can convey a deeper meaning. Structured quotes with defining imagery can be compelling in helping one to change or overcome an adversity. With that said, here are two quotes. Resilience is very different than being numb. Resilience means you experience, you fail, you hurt, you fall, but you keep going, unknown. Resilience is not what happens to you, it's how you react to, respond to, and recover from what happens to you. Jeffrey Gitmer. Here are two pictures that can be depicted as resiliency. The first picture on top is of cracked dirt, and the sunflower is surviving in the without water and the desolate land. And the next picture below is a picture of resilience of a tree enduring the harsh winds. Next slide. From the two previous quotes, two previous pictures, and maybe your own experiences, what does resilience mean to you? Next slide. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, defines resilient as able to withstand or recover quickly from difficult situations. Next slide. Through my lifetime, I've been confronted with numerous adversities. In high school, I dealt with discrimination for being Native American living in another state. The high school had a 5% population of minority students. I had students throw water and spat at me. I was bullied on a daily basis, and the school did nothing. I eventually moved back to Albuquerque and lived with my sister to finish high school. After high school, my freshman year of college is where I began to notice blurriness with my vision. I found out I had keratoconus, where 5% of the people diagnosed with this eye disease can lose their eyesight. From this point on in my life, I really felt alone and didn't realize I was stronger than I thought. I was resilient. I'm not saying I didn't have emotional breakdowns. I did. I cried. Then once I released those emotions of anger, frustration, and sadness and commiseration, I would pick myself up and emotionally and kept moving forward. I eventually lost my eyesight, where I attended a school for the blind. This place was going to teach me how to live life to the fullest as a blind person. I learned Braille, cane travel, technology, and basic everyday living skills, such as cooking, doing laundry, and shopping at various stores. Next slide. While attending blind school, I arranged for some blind students, a staff member, and I to visit a university near our facility for a tour of the campus. The university realized there was going to be 10 blind people on the campus, so they canceled with us. They didn't say it was because of our disability of being blind. They said they didn't realize there wasn't anyone available to give us a tour that day. So the staff tried to reschedule the date, and the university said they were booked up. I responded to our class, "What lies?" I asked the staff if we could individually call in and then reserve a date and time. Then they couldn't turn us away. The staff agreed we could go as individuals and set up the same date and time for the tour. What did you know? There were lots of open times available for tours. The majority of blind students backed down from attending. We went from 10 students to 3 of us, which included me. I was with 2 other blind students, and we took the bus to the university. I felt we would have made a bigger impact if all 10 of us were there. The 3 of us were there and ready to have our tour of the campus. The woman fumbled and her voice changed a bit. She left for a moment, most likely trying to figure out what to do. She returned and we had our tour. The woman was kind of uptight at the beginning, then later became relaxed and realized we weren't incapable of navigating around the campus. We successfully navigated around the university. We went back to the bus stop where we were waiting for a bus to head downtown. I would hear the bus approach the bus stop. I would walk closer and would ask the bus driver what was their bus number. As I was approaching one bus, he pulled up to the bus stop with the bus door already open. The door slammed against me and hit me while I was still on the sidewalk, and I fell to the ground. I ended up with contusions on my ribs, back, and neck. I overcame this adversity and moved to go back to school. Long story short, I attended 6 colleges and universities across the United States where I encountered lack of accommodations or insufficient accommodations according to the Americans with Disabilities Act. These barriers were not only frustrating, it was emotionally overwhelming, which drained my spirit and soul. I'm sharing these personal stories with you, youth, because sometimes when things seem bleak and impossible, there's always a way to persevere through resiliency and determination. I'm here to assist you in developing strength, developing the ability to bounce back by utilizing resiliency skills that can help you build successful lives. We all could benefit from more resilience. We all could benefit from the ability to persevere and adapt when things go wrong. Reality is the majority of us aren't emotionally and psychologically prepared to handle barriers and adversities. Since the majority of us aren't prepared to handle life's adversities, and we all know living with a disability brings forth all sorts of adversities and barriers. I know personally I am confronted with barriers on a daily basis. We are confronted with barriers in schools, whether it's with the infrastructure around campus, science labs, restrooms, gym lockers, and cafeterias. There may be barriers and not limited to the learning process where visual aids, assistive technology, and/or personal care attendant is necessary. Sometimes the schools, colleges, and workplace are reluctant to provide reasonable accommodations. School administrators, teachers, and various staff of colleges and universities and employers can sometimes be apprehensive in not understanding our needs as a disabled person. We're all different with our needs and accommodations. Sometimes they just don't get it. No matter how much we try to explain and reiterate, they remain closed-minded. It's absolutely wonderful when your path crosses with an individual that empathizes and understands where you are coming from. And it's even better when it's a teacher, school administrator, and employer. These variations of adversities and barriers, no matter how big or small, instead of facing our problems courageously and confidently, there may be a chance of just giving up, feeling alone and helpless. Next slide. When you live from your strengths, such as the things that interest you and things you excel at, it can improve what you do and the way you learn. Martin Singelman has written on learned optimism, which is positive education. Positive education is about identifying, developing, and utilizing one's own strengths towards engagement and greater achievement. Positive education first benefits teachers by making it easier to engage students to acknowledge the importance of mastering their academic courses. Next slide. When you are confronted with barriers, whatever it may be, what is going through your mind? What emotions do you feel? Do you feel anxious? Do you hide your emotions? Are you quick to anger? Do you feel defeated? Do you worry and not letting anyone in? If you said yes to any of these, I am here to help you learn new ways to build up your resiliency and self-esteem. Next slide. You as a student should understand failure is not an end point. Learning the basics. When confronted with a problem or difficult situation, are you ever surprised by how you react and handle the situation? Do you wish you could handle it differently? Sometimes when problems and challenge erupt, your thoughts scrambling around in your head may be inaccurate, which will compromise your ability to properly handle the challenge. One of the major basics is to learn to listen to your thoughts. Understand what you say to yourself when confronted with a challenge in your life. Analyze how your thoughts affect your behavior and feelings. How would you like your behavior to change? How would you like your feelings to change? Next slide. Avoiding thinking traps. When things go wrong, do you blame yourself? When things go wrong, do you blame others? Right away, do you jump to conclusions? When confronted with barriers, people usually make mistakes that debilitate their resilience. Next slide. Detecting icebergs. These are your beliefs of how people and the world should act. These beliefs are called icebergs because they float underneath our conscience. These beliefs guide us to behave in the ways that are true to our values, which include our culture and traditions. Next slide. Challenging beliefs. A key component of resilience is problem solving. Problem solving is first you define the problem. and evaluate the situation. Generate some possible solutions. Evaluate and select an alternative. Implement and follow up on the solution. Next slide. Putting it into perspective. Do you get caught up in the quicksand mode of what if, which turns every barrier or failure into a catastrophe? Do your feelings of worry and or anxiety inundate your time and energy in regards to events that haven't occurred? Looking at each barrier as short-term rather than permanent. Next slide. We will encounter adversities where we'll have to problem solve. I know those of us that lack confidence can cause us to give up at the first sign of adversity. Every time one gives up and fails at a challenge, a negative belief begins to embed in oneself, which reinforces you cannot handle the pressure of life, leaving you with self-doubt. Next slide. According to Albert Bandura, self-efficacy is the belief in one's capability to organize and execute the courses of action required to manage prospective situations. You need to believe in your ability to succeed in a particular situation. Next slide. Begin building a stronger sense of self through experiences. Performing a task successfully strengthens our sense of self-efficacy and resilience. Remember, failing to adequately deal with a challenge or adversity can weaken your resilience and self-efficacy. An important source of self-efficacy is seeing other people and peers successfully completing a task. If you see one of your peers succeed, you instill a belief that you are capable of achieving comparable tasks and activities. Number 3, you can be persuaded to believe you have the skills and capabilities to succeed. Think about a time when someone said something positive and encouraging to you that helped you achieve a goal. When you receive verbal encouragement from someone else, it helps in overcoming self-doubt. Then you put in your best effort to the assignment or task. Next slide. Resilience can be built with flexible and accurate thinking. Here's an example. There's a softball game and a baseball game. In the baseball game, someone hits a grounder where Noah misses the catch. Noah tells himself it was a bad bounce. Noah is still confident in his abilities. His coach and teammates yell, "Shake it off." Noah's posture is straight and remains energetic, which gives him the confidence to continue to stay focused to play at his level. On a nearby softball field, Sarah misses a catch as well. Sarah's response is, "I just don't have what it takes to play this game." Sarah lost her confidence in her abilities and was wishing she wasn't playing the game. Her coach and teammates yell, "Shake it off." Sarah's posture is slumped and her movement is slow. Her coach began to think, is she going to recover from this play? Next slide. These two stories demonstrate their error in missing the ball. They both responded differently by their behaviors and attitude. Noah and Sarah were expressing different explanatory styles. We each have an explanatory style. Explanatory style is based on 3 attributes of why a negative event occurred. Duration. Duration is, do we believe the bad event will last forever or temporarily? The scope. The scope is, do we believe that the bad event affects everything in our lives or just a small part of it? Control. Control is, do we blame ourselves or others for the event? Next slide. Noah did not catch the ball was temporary because the ball doesn't always take a bad bounce. The cause was specific. The ball bounced. The ball was outside his control, so he has nothing to feel bad about. This explanatory style demonstrates he's confident enough to try again and expect a different and better outcome. One key point with explanatory style is how honest we are with ourselves. Next slide. If you blame the ball on the bad bounce, this can actually work against you and your accomplishment. An adaptive pattern of thinking. I made an error, and that can happen to anyone. I'm going to practice more. Sarah, on the other hand, behaved more negatively. She felt inadequate. It's always going to be this way. I'm not good enough. These thoughts will make her struggle with everything about softball. Thoughts and emotions are intertwined, making it difficult to separate the two. Thinking affects feelings. Our emotions are shaped by our beliefs and our experiences. If our thinking is less flexible and less accurate about a situation, we become stuck like quicksand. We all have the ability to think about our thoughts and reshape our thought patterns to become more flexible, accurate, and productive. Next slide. An important component of resiliency is optimism, which becomes empowered with flexible and accurate thinking. Many research studies have demonstrated the effects of optimistic thinking leads to good health, good relationships, and successfully pursue their goals. Focusing on flexible and accurate thinking with an open mind. Our personal habits of thinking affect the types of explanations we come up with when we encounter barriers. Here are some ways to overcome negative tendencies. Next slide. Habits of thinking. We all have goals in life as we pursue them with our disabilities. We are confronted with barriers and adversities. We try to move forward, yet there may be times where our habits of thinking cause our efforts to work against us. When we think by pointing to causes that are in the broad scope, more permanent than temporary, we end up with less control. This leads to hopelessness, the feeling of being stuck in that quicksand. This will keep us from moving forward. Next slide. So this slide is, it shows optimistic, and it gives the different categories of Noah's, the ground catchiness, and optimistic because he's thinking that the bad bounce is temporary, and the specificness of it is the bad bounce applies to one play. And he boosts control because the bad bounce happens to everybody. And games are determined by skill, so Noah is showing that he's in control. The pessimistic side of it is because Sarah, she believes it's more of a permanent effect, and she believes that I don't have what it takes, so that's more permanent. And the broad aspect of it is the lack of ability affects all parts of the game. And so she shows that she has diminished control, not having what it takes. Sarah has no control over her performances. And we can all fill this out when we run into a barrier and adversity to kind of get the feeling of where we're going with it and kind of, think more thoroughly with our thoughts. Next slide. A person with optimism is more resilient because one can decipher that causes of barriers are short-term and specific, which puts one in control. A person with pessimism loses energy and motivation when confronted with barriers. One sees the cause as permanent. This attitude diminishes their control. Noah's attitude and beliefs heighten his energy, commitment, and focus when things go right with his set of mind. When Noah is confronted with a barrier, his attitude won't drop. He'll conquer the adversity with ease and spiral upwards. Pessimist outlook, like Sarah's, tend to view roadblocks as impossibilities rather than a challenge of working harder, the kinds of challenges that make us feel awesome after we accomplish a challenge. 2 thinking biases. What we have learned so far is that positive thinking encompassed with flexible and accurate thinking leads to healthy and successful lives. Like with any challenge or sport, it takes practice. The more we practice, the better we become. An Olympic runner didn't go out and automatically run a 100-meter dash in under 10 seconds, just like that. He trained and stuck with a rigorous schedule to get where he or she got. We all have deep biases that make it difficult to change our own thoughts. And negative biases is when we recollect all the negative events in our life. This outweighs the happy and positive events in our life. This keeps the pessimist stuck in quicksand with inaccurate thinking. As we begin our journey beginning to think flexible and accurately, don't let the negative bias intercede and pull you back into that quicksand mode. Slow down and think carefully as you learn the skills of resiliency. Thinking through your reactions to events thoroughly will be challenging. After practice, you will find yourself challenging broad and some permanent causes of barriers that dissipate your control. You will see more easily the optimistic explanatory styles come into fruition. You'll see the short-term causes, and then you will be in control. Next slide. Once you pay attention to how you react to events and the ways of what you are thinking and how you feel, you'll become more aware of your emotions. You'll feel the force. You'll develop the ability to identify your own emotions accurately as well as in others. When you are being confronted with an adversity and barrier, remember your thoughts. May seem right to you at the time. Stop, breathe, reflect. Reflect the truth of the matter. Your emotions will back your thinking that you are correct. Let's say an event occurs where you think a violation of your rights occurred. In some cases, this will lead your feelings to frustration and anger. Your feelings of anger will make it difficult for you to decipher the possibility that your rights may not have been violated. Practicing and noticing your thoughts will give you the benefit you need to utilize flexible and accurate thinking. Keep practicing the skill of flexible thinking and accurately becomes easier. At this point, you will be an optimist. Next slide. Another example, imagine you walk into your school cafeteria. You see your friend Sophia with two other classmates. Sophia points at you from the distance and they all laugh. And then you are wondering what Sophia said. So this is the Think It Through document, and it should be on the sidebar. There's two documents for you guys to assist you with the resiliency skills. So this is the Think It Through exercise. So we're going to go through Sophia's incident. So the event, you'll just list the facts of who, what, where, and when. So it's who, Sophia, what, said something to two classmates and laughed. Where, the cafeteria. When, today. And then you think, list your thoughts or beliefs while the event is happening. And so she's thinking, oh no, Sophia told them about my mishap. I told her not to tell anyone. And so then you go to what you're feeling. What emotions did you feel with those thoughts and beliefs? And she felt embarrassment. And what do you do? What did you do? She went and sat at another table with kids she didn't know and didn't talk with them. So once you go through the Think It Through exercise, you'll be able to see your thoughts and be able to, decipher on what's going on, and then you can, use your resiliency skills to go from there. There are times, next slide, there are times you may need to think deeper into your thoughts when your emotions get the better of you in the heat of the moment. This may be confusing to you. There's a difference in being confused with your emotions and being confused with the situation. Being confused by the situation is, I don't know why he or she is doing that. Being confused by your emotions is, I don't know why I feel this way. There are several forms of confusion. I'm hoping this doesn't confuse you more. Your emotions may be way out of proportion to your thoughts. You think to yourself, that wasn't nice and considerate, yet you are livid. Or you may think to yourself, what she said was rude and uncalled for, and you feel nothing at all. Your emotions might not match your thoughts. When your thoughts of your rights may have been violated, instead of feeling angry, you felt sadness. This would be confusing. You can also experience emotions where they flip back and forth, making it even more difficult to make a simple decision. We all have our own beliefs. These strong thoughts about how the world is or how the world should be, these thoughts work against us. When things get confusing for us, use the Think It Through document to help you. Sometimes you have to dig deeper to find out what is going on with you, your emotions, and your behaviors. Don't ask yourself, why do you feel this way? Because that leads back to our biased beliefs. The main point, the main event occurred, and your thoughts and emotions did not make sense. Sit down and write it out using the Think It Through document. Choose the thought that seems directly connected with your emotion. Ask yourself, what would be so bad about that? Next slide. Then make your answer to that question the subject of another. What question? For example, what about that really bothers me? Or what would be the worst part of that? Keep going until you reach an answer that makes sense out of your emotions. You will feel the right answer. You'll reach a point where you will say, no wonder, if I believe that, it makes total sense. And then you can feel how you felt. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm hoping to add another series of resiliency as there's another strategy entitled Student Mindsets That Work.
Thank you, Sacheen. That was a wonderful presentation. So for the parent centers that are on board, you're probably thinking, how can I use this valuable information that Sacheen has shared? And one of the ways would be, if you're thinking about starting a leadership group, particularly with Native youth or youth with disabilities, everything Sacheen covered today is internal things that people of maybe a minority group or disability group have to live through on a daily basis. We process this stuff, we try to internalize it. So all of the points that she made would be great if you're thinking about starting a youth leadership group, to maybe view this video with them, and then have a chance at the end to talk about how you would develop leadership using the tools that Sacheen has used today. So that's one of the ways that you might want to use this material to kickstart a youth leadership group. Sacheen is doing a series for us at NAPTAC and with the RAISE group, and we will have a series of workshops that she will be presenting, because like parent centers, our strengths, one of the things I learned from today's session, our strengths are that we are parents that have kids with disabilities. So we have walked in the moccasins of those family members who contact us now. Using that analogy, Sacheen's strength is that she has walked in the moccasins that youth with disabilities are going through. So she will be doing a series for us on everything from, like she talked about, another resiliency webinar, but her next webinar will be April 25th, and it will be on transition from high school to college. And of course, it'll be from her unique perspective of things that she has had to walk through in her own journey of high school to college. So we're really looking forward to that. We will send out an announcement about it. Feel free. You have resources with RAISE and with NAPTAC. You can contact Sacheen directly if you would like to. And please use her as a resource. We're so valued to her to have her on staff and to have her with our two organizations. So at any time, feel free to contact me or Josie Badger with RAISE, and our job is really to assist you in any way that we can to help you provide outreach services to Native youth with disabilities. So with that, Kelsey, do you have any questions? Are there any questions posted?
No, there's just a comment saying incredible advice.
Oh, great. So,
oh, thank you.
Okay. So, this was really informative to me, and I can't thank you enough, Sacheen, for the information that you shared with everybody. And again, we will record this webinar, and it will be posted to both the RAISE group and the NAPTAC group. So with that, I think we can end. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for attending.